Hello, my name is Kylie Nicholas, and this is my creative and critical process for my film opening, Paper Promises. To begin, my film is a mix of the mystery, adventure, and fantasy genres, and is meant to represent younger ages, specifically older children and teenagers who are usually represented within these genres as naive and learning new things about themselves and the world, which is similar to the main character in my film. In order to get the happy feeling of a younger targeted film, I made sure that there was a lot of bright lighting in my scenes and made sure to use cinematic mode in order to ensure a brighter setting for my character. In moments when the character is feeling down, to reflect this, I would make the lighting darker in order to show her and her heavy feelings on her heart. I showed the emotions of the main character through editing as well, through various jump cuts during scenes where she can be seen crumbling paper, folding paper, in order to show the frustration building within her after continuous failure. Regarding sound, I used non-copyrighted music that I found on YouTube. It took a lot of my time to find one that would match with the events of my film and also contribute to the whimsy feeling and theme of the film overall. I also made some sounds greater than most of the other ones in order to further express the character's frustration, like when again she is crumbling paper and folding it. Another huge factor regarding sound is that I included would be the fact that I made the choice to have a lot of my dialogue majorly be voiceover, as well as a lot of external dialogue. Regarding sound, I used a non-copyrighted music that I found on YouTube. It took a lot of my time to find one that would match with the events of my film and also contribute to the whimsy feeling and theme overall for my film. I also made some sounds greater than most to be able to further express the character's frustration, like again when she's crumbling and folding up the paper. Another huge factor regarding sound that I included would be the fact that I made the choice to have a lot of my dialogue be majorly voiceover, and a lot being external dialogue to keep the external dialogue at a minimum. I wanted to give a mysterious aura that would make the viewers want to keep watching for more, but as well as kind of show how the main character is often in isolation and often speaks with a lot of internal dialogue in general, rather than external. Also, to show the madness of the character and frustration, I made a lot of the title above the shot angles to add some kind of distortion to the film and support this feeling and paint the character as a creative perfectionist. And to add on to the essence of my film when editing the credits, I also chose for the font to resemble one of a pencil writing on the screen, again to reinforce the kiddish vibe, as well as the idea that paper is very important to the character. Regarding mise-en-scène, a lot of the background details that I put into it, I wanted to incorporate a lot of paper to kind of correlate to, again, who the character was and what was important to her, which included making paper crafts, as well as to include on the wall, crumpling paper to put on the floor, and adding a paper calendar to the background. When making my film, I took inspiration from prior films that I've seen, such as Bridge to Terabithia, as well as Howl's Moving Castle. Both are realistic but have a sense of magic within the real world, and although it is targeted to a younger audience, they are films that can be enjoyed by all age groups, which is something that I really wanted from my film. As far as editing, I used iMovie on my laptop to edit clips together, as well as my sound, which is something that I had to do for the first time when entering this class. Although I had been familiar with editing to iMovie previously, I had to adapt and learn how to use iMovie on my laptop, which was pretty useful for me as it was much easier to use. Regarding my credits and my title editing, I switched over to CapCut as I have more experience using it regarding wording over videos and films. Creating this film opening definitely changed and helps me grow tremendously as a filmmaker than when I was in the beginning of the class, taking media studies. In my previous projects, I did my film projects with others, and this time I did it by myself. Mainly to become a better filmmaker than I was during the beginning of my class, I personally had to pay attention to certain rules of film regarding cinematography, specifically the 180-degree rule. This overall helps with the way that the story comes out, as well as how the film looks in general. Firstly, First, I planned out my storyline, then promptly got to working on the script. Drafting at first didn't seem like it would be too hard, since there really was supposed to be 3 characters originally, but with one person specifically who was meant to be a part of it, they couldn't, so I had to then work and find another person to replace them. But other than that, it was fairly easy. Another problem that I ran into was that after filming everything, and going into the editing process, I realized that I had way too much content to be able to fit into 2 minutes only, so then I had to cut a part of my film. And although this was a huge obstacle for me, it allowed me to assess which clips would be needed to be taken out and kept in order to still convey the story that I wanted to, with including the proper cinematography, editing, sound, mise-en-scène, etc. And I think overall this helped me though, be able to have that trait to be able to assess which parts I needed to include and still be able to tell the proper story that I wanted to. Overall, for filming, I had a lot of control over my mom and my sister's movement, on how close they were, etc., to the camera and much more. And after every shot, I would revise the scene and decide whether it was sufficient enough to use, or if I needed to refilm it to be safe and make sure that I got the proper clips that I needed for my film. Editing wasn't easy, as editing wasn't difficult, as I'm actually pretty experienced with that from my own personal endeavors. But for sound, I had to retake many times in order to get the perfect audio without disruption from any external sources, as, like I mentioned before, it was very important, and there was a specific way that I wanted to do my sound in the first place, with a lot of internal dialogue, not really for the external. I learned that every step in the process of filmmaking is just as important as the next. In the beginning, it's very important to plan out certain things, like where you're going to plan, how is it going to be filmed, etc. As if you're not, your whole filming process will be disrupted. In the middle, which would be the actual filming part, like I mentioned before, it's important to really keep in mind the final result that you want for your film, by keeping in mind the important rules that will really determine the overall result and quality of your film. And in the end, regarding editing, I learned that the things like editing to the exact second where you cut your clips, or maybe like even a filter or sound effects, can really affect your film in a positive way as well. And it's just as important as when you're filming and planning for your script. Another thing that I would say that I learned was that the process of filmmaking is definitely better when you film with others, as although I had help from people like my mom and my sister, for the part that they couldn't really help me with, holding the camera was kind of difficult, and it did kind of affect, I would say, some parts of my film. My film would be released on a streaming platform, especially because the younger audience that I'm trying to reach, nowadays, younger generation, we tend to watch on streaming platforms. So, yeah, I would definitely be released on a streaming platform. Since my films are inspired by more younger themed films, I would choose the production company Walt Disney to be able to produce, more specifically Walden Media, as it would be better for a smaller release. And as I mentioned, it would be streaming. So since Disney's main streaming platform would be Disney Plus, that is where I would release my film. But overall, I really did enjoy the filming process, and that was my critical reflection. Hope you like it. Thank you. Paper. Paper holds the truth and the stories of our lives. That is, if you know how to properly use it. It carries our greatest secrets, greatest feelings, and our deepest regrets.
What's wrong again? You know it's not right to waste paper like this.
Sorry, it's just
Nothing. Open your curtain. Let the light in.
a summer camp, but
I've had enough of you, staying inside all day, hiding from the world. I understand your pain, but life goes on.
and if you let me hold you back forever, your story will never leave the page.